like to tell you a little bit about how Spidey sense developed. When you start out as a tower guard your first year, everything's so brand new, and you're uptight, and you're not panicked by any means, but you sure don't want to make a mistake. And the last thing you want to do is be late on a rescue. So over the course of the years, when you go from towers to like Tower Zero and then into communications, and you start to develop this what I call Spidey sense. And what it really is just experience that's embedded, and you start to recognize things that may not be what they seem. And I recall one time, it was in 1971, I'd just been promoted, and it was my job to go down to Cotton's Point, where the Western White House was, and we had a phone down there on a pole right below John Severson's house, and that was directly across the little gulch from the gazebo where the president would play poker. And actually FDR had visited there when he came west one time in World War II. And so I go down to check the phone, and everything's working fine. And of course, while I'm down there, a Secret Service guy pops over the fence, and he's very curious to what we're doing. And I just gave him a wave and told him what we're doing, and everything was fine. But then I left there, and on the way back, about, 150, 200 yards heading north, back towards the pier, still on Cypress Shores property there, or public beach, but within their zone. There was a bunch of beach towels, and there was a lady who was probably in her mid-50s laying there on her side. And I drove by her, and I just noted that she's asleep. And after I went by her, something just kicked in. I don't know what it was really, but it was what I call the Spidey sense. And I think it was just that she was laying there in kind of a frozen position that was somehow just slightly different than if you're sleeping. But she was definitely out. And so I backed up, got out of the Jeep, and walked over and knelt down beside her. And I reached over to touch her, and I fully expected her to go, "Whoa, wake up," and go, "Who are you?" But she didn't wake up. She didn't move. And so I shook her a little more. And after 2 or 3 attempts to wake her up, I got down next to her, and I put my fingers on her neck and felt her pulse. It was very, very weak. And I realized we had kind of a situation developing here, And then I smelled kind of an acetone breath on her, and that told me she was in a diabetic coma. And I couldn't wake her up. And she did become not alert in any way, shape, or form, but she kind of was just, And so I called for the fire department ambulance, and they came down through Cypress Shores, and firemen came down, helped me load her up and put her back in the ambulance, and they took off. Then later on they stopped and told me that she was very near death. And but what was unusual about it was the first time that I remembered my Spidey sense kicking in. And I was really grateful. I mean, you don't want to drive by somebody and have them then die. I mean, not that I would have known, but so it was really important to develop that. And
now, where did you get that training to be able to recognize that acetone smell breath?
That came from lifeguard training. When Phil Stubbs ran the training in the old lifeguard headquarters my first year, that would have been, so this was 71, so that would have been 68. And by then I'd seen quite a bit of different things, medical aid wise, rescue wise, and stuff. But you start to develop the Spidey sense when you're sitting in your tower, and you can almost feel that this kid, when he goes in the water, is going to be a rescue. You can almost feel it. But by then, 3 or 4 years into it, it had really developed, quite a bit more.